The wedding was supposed to happen in 3 days. Instead, it happened in blood. Aurora stood in the armory beneath Minjun's penthouse, a place she'd never seen before. Rows of weapons gleamed under cold, fluorescent lights. Guns, knives, explosives, tools of war that had kept Minjun alive for 2 decades. He handed her a sleek black pistol, its weight solid and unforgiving in her palm. "You know how to use this." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed something deeper. Fear, not for himself, for her. Aurora checked the magazine with practiced efficiency. Her hands moving with a confidence that surprised even her. "You forget I've been surviving since I was a child. I learned to fight long before I met you." Minjun's lips curved into something between pride and pain. "Then you know what's coming." "Tell me everything," she demanded, her voice sharp as the blade strapped to her thigh beneath her dress. "Who is he? What does he want?" Minjun's jaw tightened. "His name is Choi Dae-hyun. 5 years ago, he was my partner. We built this empire together from nothing. But power corrupts, and Dae-hyun wanted more than partnership. He wanted everything. He tried to kill me, tried to take over my operations, tried to turn my own men against me, so I destroyed him. I burned his businesses to ash. I sent him to prison with enough evidence to keep him locked away for life. Or so I thought. He escaped. Worse. Minjun pulled up security footage on a tablet. Aurora's blood froze as she watched. Dae-hyun walking free through Seoul's streets, surrounded by armed men, his face twisted with malevolent purpose. He was released 3 days ago. Someone high up pulled strings, someone powerful enough to erase his crimes. And the first thing he did was start making inquiries about you. Aurora's grip tightened on the pistol. "Then we find him first." "Aurora?" "No." She stepped closer, her eyes blazing with determination that made Minjun's breath catch. "You said I'm your equal. You said I'm your partner. Then let me fight beside you. Let me prove that the girl you saved isn't just someone you protect. She's someone who protects you too." Before Minjun could respond, his phone erupted with alerts. Jin-woo burst through the door, his face pale, his voice urgent. "Boss, we have a problem. Multiple problems. Dae-hyun just hit 3 of our warehouses simultaneously. He knew exactly where they were, exactly when the guards would rotate. Someone gave him intel." Minjun's expression went arctic. "We have a traitor." The penthouse descended into controlled chaos. Minjun's inner circle gathered in the war room, 12 men and 3 women who'd pledged their lives to him. Maps covered the walls. Red marks indicated compromised locations. Aurora watched Minjun transform before her eyes. The tender lover disappeared, replaced by the tactical genius who'd conquered Seoul's underworld. "Listen carefully." Minjun's voice commanded absolute attention. "Dae-hyun knows our operations because someone here told him. Someone in this room is feeding him information, and until I know who, no one leaves this building. No one makes external calls. No one communicates with anyone outside this circle." Tension crackled through the room. Hands drifted toward weapons. Eyes darted suspiciously between faces. Aurora felt the paranoia spreading like poison. Then Jin-woo spoke, his voice carrying weight. "Boss, there's something else. Dae-hyun didn't just hit our warehouses. He took hostages. 23 of our people. And he's demanding a trade." "What trade?" Aurora asked. Though dread already coiled in her stomach, Jin-woo's eyes met hers with devastating certainty. "You. He wants Aurora. He says if you surrender yourself to him within 12 hours, he'll release the hostages unharmed. If you don't, he'll execute them one by one and broadcast it live across Seoul." The room exploded in arguments. Some demanded they storm Dae-hyun's position immediately. Others advocated negotiation. A few suggested sacrificing the hostages to protect Aurora. Minjun silenced them all with a single raised hand. "We're not trading her. We're not sacrificing our people. We're doing what I do best." His smile was lethal. "We're going to war." 2 hours later, Aurora stood in Minjun's private quarters, adjusting the tactical vest that hugged her body. She'd changed from her elegant dress into black combat gear that allowed fluid movement. Minjun approached from behind, his hands settling on her shoulders with unexpected gentleness. "You don't have to do this," he whispered against her ear. "I have enough men, enough weapons, enough." "Stop." Aurora turned to face him, her hands framing his face with fierce tenderness. "Every second we waste is another second those hostages suffer. Every moment we delay is another moment Dae-hyun thinks he's won. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not the girl who ran from her stepfamily. I'm the woman who danced for you, who stood in your hall while you chose me, who survived everything they threw at me, and now I'm the woman who fights beside the man she loves." Minjun kissed her then, deep and desperate and consuming. When they finally broke apart, his eyes burned with something beyond love, beyond devotion. Something that looked like worship. Then let's show him what happens when he threatens what's ours. The convoy rolled through Seoul's streets at midnight. 6 black SUVs, moving in perfect formation. Aurora sat beside Minjun in the lead vehicle, her heart steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Through the window, the city lights blurred past like dying stars. Dae-hyun's holding the hostages in an abandoned factory on the Han River, Jinwoo explained from the front seat, pulling up thermal imaging on a tablet. 23 hostages confirmed, approximately 40 armed guards, heavy weapons, multiple exit points. He's prepared for an assault. Good, Minjun said coldly. Let him prepare. It won't matter. Aurora studied the layout, her mind working through scenarios with surprising clarity. Years of surviving abuse had taught her to think strategically, to anticipate violence, to find weaknesses in seemingly impenetrable defenses. There. She pointed to a section of the factory's eastern wall. The thermal signatures show a gap in their patrol pattern. If we create a distraction at the main entrance, a small team could breach here undetected. Minjun's eyes met hers with fierce pride. You think like a tactician. I think like someone who's been hunted her entire life. Now I'm the hunter. They arrived at a staging point 3 blocks from the factory, Minjun's forces deployed with military precision, 30 elite operatives who'd fought beside him for years. Aurora watched them prepare, checking weapons, synchronizing communications, moving with the practiced efficiency of warriors who danced with death countless times. Minjun gathered his team for final instructions. Listen closely. Dae-hyun expects a frontal assault. He expects rage. He expects me to storm in like a berserker because he threatened what I love. So we give him what he expects. Jinwoo leads the frontal team. Make noise. Make chaos. Make him commit his forces to the main entrance. And you, boss? Jinwoo asked. Minjun's smile was predatory. Aurora and I are taking the ghost team through the eastern breach. We'll be inside before he realizes we're there, and by the time he does, it'll be too late. Aurora felt 6 pairs of eyes turn to her. The ghost team, elite operatives who'd never worked with her before, assessing whether she was liability or asset. She met their gazes steadily, her hand resting casually on her pistol, her posture radiating confidence she'd earned through years of survival. Problem? She asked quietly. The team leader, a scarred woman named Hae-won, studied her for a long moment before nodding with approval. No problem, welcome to the team. The assault began with thunder. Jinwoo's frontal team hit the factory's main entrance with overwhelming force. Explosions ripped through the night. Gunfire erupted in staccato bursts. Dae-hyun's guards responded exactly as predicted, converging on the breach, committing resources to repel the assault. While chaos consumed the front, Aurora and Minjun's ghost team moved like shadows along the eastern wall. Hae-won placed shaped charges on the weakened section Aurora had identified. The explosion was surgical, precise, barely audible beneath the symphony of violence at the main entrance. They poured through the breach into darkness, Aurora's night vision activated, painting the world in shades of green. The factory's interior was a maze of rusted machinery and collapsed support beams, perfect cover, perfect death trap. Minjun's hand signals were clear. Advance in pairs, clear each section. Maintain radio silence until contact. Aurora moved with Haewon, their weapons sweeping synchronized arcs, their breathing controlled and steady. They cleared 3 rooms without incident. Then Aurora felt it, that primal instinct that had kept her alive through years of abuse. Wait. Haewon froze. Aurora pointed to a barely visible tripwire stretched across a doorway, connected to what looked like improvised explosives. They'd walked right up to a trap designed to kill anyone using this route. He knew, Aurora whispered. He knew about the eastern approach. Minjun appeared beside them, his expression granite. Then our traitor gave him more than patrol schedules. They gave him our entire tactical playbook. A voice crackled through hidden speakers, echoing through the factory with mocking warmth. Welcome, old friend. I've been expecting you. Did you really think I wouldn't anticipate your ghost team strategy? Did you think I'd forgotten everything you taught me? Daehyun's laugh was acid and madness. I've had 5 years to plan this. 5 years rotting in a cell you put me in. 5 years dreaming about this moment, and now you've brought me the perfect gift. The woman you love, walking right into my trap. Lights blazed to life, blinding them. Aurora's training kicked in instantly. She dropped, rolled, found cover behind a support beam. Gunfire erupted from multiple positions. Daehyun's hidden forces had been waiting in ambush. The ghost team responded with devastating efficiency. Haewon took out 3 shooters in rapid succession. Minjun moved like liquid death, his pistol barking precise shots that found targets with surgical accuracy, but they were pinned, outnumbered, caught in a kill box designed specifically for them. Aurora's mind raced. They couldn't retreat. The explosives would detonate. They couldn't advance. The crossfire would shred them. They needed a third option. Her eyes tracked the factory's structure, analyzing, calculating there. Above them, a network of catwalks and suspended platforms that would provide elevated firing positions. Cover me, she said to Haewon. Before anyone could stop her, Aurora sprinted from cover. Bullets tore through the air where she'd been a heartbeat earlier. She hit a ladder and climbed with desperate speed, her muscles burning, her breath coming in controlled gasps. Hands reached for rungs. Feet found purchase. Up. Higher. She didn't stop until she reached the catwalk 30 feet above the kill box. From this position, she could see everything Daehyun's forces thought they had the superior position, but they'd forgotten to watch above. Aurora's pistol came up, her breathing steadied, and she fired 1 shot. One shooter dropped. 2 shots. Another fell. 3 shots. The tide began turning. Minjun saw her strategy instantly. He signaled the ghost team to advance while Aurora provided covering fire from above. The crossfire became their weapon instead of their death sentence. Daehyun's ambush collapsed in minutes, his men caught between Aurora's elevated position and the ghost team's relentless assault. When the gunfire finally stopped, 12 of Daehyun's men lay dead or incapacitated. The ghost team had taken only minor injuries. Aurora descended from the catwalk, her hands steady despite the adrenaline crash beginning to hit her system. Minjun caught her at the bottom, his hands gripping her arms, his eyes wild with emotion he couldn't quite control. That was insane. That was necessary. Aurora reloaded her pistol with practiced efficiency. Where are the hostages? They found them in the factory's central chamber, 23 terrified faces bound and gagged, surrounded by enough explosives to level the entire building. A digital timer counted down on the wall. 8 minutes. Daehyun's final trap. Even if they rescued the hostages, the factory would become their tomb. He's not here. Jinwoo reported, having linked up with them after securing the main entrance. Daehyun's not in the building. He was never here. The realization hit Aurora like ice water. It's another distraction. Everything. The hostages, the ambush, the timer. It's all designed to keep us here while he attacks the penthouse, Minjun finished, his face going pale. Everyone we love, everyone who matters. They're all back at the penthouse, undefended, vulnerable. The math was brutal. 8 minutes to free the hostages and disarm the bombs. 15 minutes back to the penthouse, even at maximum speed. By the time they arrived, Daehyun would have already struck. They couldn't save both. They had to choose. Aurora saw Minjun's expression fracture as the impossible decision tore through him. Save the hostages or save their home, save loyal soldiers or save the future they'd built together. There was no right answer, only loss. No, Aurora's voice cut through his spiral with absolute certainty. We don't choose, we save both. Hae-won, you're the best demolitions expert here. Can you disarm these explosives in 8 minutes? Hae-won studied the setup, her experienced eyes cataloguing wires, triggers, fail-safes. Maybe. If nothing goes wrong, if every cut is perfect, if the timer isn't rigged to accelerate when tampered with. Then you have your orders, disarm the bombs. Free the hostages. Get everyone to safety. Aurora turned to Minjun, her hand gripping his with desperate strength. We're going back right now, and we're ending this tonight. Minjun stared at her like she'd suggested flying to the moon. Aurora, even if we leave now, we'll be outnumbered. Daehyun won't come alone. He'll have brought his entire force. Good. Aurora's smile was sharp enough to cut. Then we won't have to hunt them down later. They're coming to us. To our home, our territory, where we have every advantage, where we know every sightline, every entrance, every defensive position. Daehyun's been planning this for 5 years. But he's forgotten something important. What's that? You don't just fight for power anymore, you fight for love, and there's nothing more dangerous than someone protecting what they love. They left the ghost team to handle the hostages and raced back through Seoul's streets at illegal speeds. Aurora checked her weapons in the moving SUV, pistol, knife, backup magazines, smoke grenades Jinwoo had shoved into her hands. Her body moved on autopilot while her mind calculated scenarios, probabilities, strategies. When we arrive, Minjun said, his voice carrying the weight of command and something softer underneath, I need you to promise me something. No promises we both survive, or neither of us does. That's the only deal. Aurora, don't! She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Don't you dare try to protect me at the cost of your own life. Don't you dare make yourself a martyr for me. We're partners, equals. We fight together, we survive together, or we die together. Those are the only options I accept. Minjun's laugh was raw and broken and beautiful. How did I ever think you needed saving? You're the strongest person I've ever known. You did save me. Just not the way you thought. You didn't save me from death. You saved me from disappearing, from being invisible, from believing I was worthless. You made me remember that I matter, that I'm worth fighting for. Now let me prove that you're worth fighting for too. The penthouse appeared on the horizon, a tower of glass and steel stabbing into Seoul's night sky. But something was wrong. The lights were out. All of them. The building was dark, silent, dead. Smoke curled from several windows. Minjun's hands clenched into fists so tight his knuckles went white. He's already inside. They abandoned the SUV 3 blocks away and approached on foot, using the darkness as cover. Aurora's enhanced night vision activated again, painting the world in shades of green. Bodies littered the penthouse's entrance, security guards slaughtered with efficient brutality. Daehyun hadn't come to negotiate. He'd come to exterminate Minjun, and Aurora entered through a maintenance access point only he knew about. The interior was chaos. Furniture overturned, bullet holes stitching walls, signs of desperate fighting everywhere. But no bodies. Whoever had been here Minjun's remaining staff, his secondary team, they'd either escaped or been taken. Where would he set his command post? Aurora whispered. Minjun's eyes narrowed. The war room. Top floor. He'd want the position of power, the throne. He'd want to sit where I sat and make me watch him take it. They ascended through the building like ghosts, clearing each floor with agonizing thoroughness. 20 floors. 30. 40. Each empty. Each silent. The tension built with every step until Aurora's nerves felt like piano wire, stretched to snapping point. Then, on the 45th floor, they heard voices. Minjun signaled a stop. They pressed against the wall, weapons ready, breathing controlled. Aurora strained to hear the conversation drifting from the war room above. Don't understand, do you? Dae-hyun's voice carried that particular quality of madness, kept leashed for years, finally breaking free. I didn't escape prison. I was released. Do you know why? Because I made a deal. I gave them something they wanted more than my imprisonment. Another voice responded, familiar but wrong. Aurora's blood turned to ice as recognition hit. And we're very pleased with your cooperation, Mr. Choi. Your intelligence on Minjun's operations has been invaluable. She knew that voice, knew it from years of hearing it bark orders, from years of hearing it curse her existence. It couldn't be. He was supposed to be exiled. He was supposed to be broken. He was supposed to be... Kwan-soo. Minjun's whisper carried murder. Aurora's stepfather had returned, and he'd allied with Dae-hyun. The pieces fell into place with horrifying clarity. Kwan-soo hadn't fled Korea. He'd gone underground, made new connections, traded information for protection. And when Dae-hyun needed a partner to destroy Minjun, they'd found common cause in mutual hatred. Your stepdaughter, Dae-hyun continued, his voice dripping with amusement, has become quite the warrior. I lost 12 men to her tonight. Impressive for a girl who was supposed to be worthless. She was always worthless, Kwan-soo spat. A curse from the moment she was born. But if she's become useful to Minjun, then killing her will destroy him completely. That's all that matters. Aurora felt Minjun tense beside her, preparing to storm the room. She grabbed his arm, shook her head, pointed to her ear. Listen, gather intelligence before striking. The question, a third voice interjected, cold and calculating, is whether you can actually kill her. She's already proven more resilient than expected. Perhaps we're underestimating. I don't care if she's become a demon, Kwan-soo snarled. She bleeds, she dies, and when she does, I'll finally be free of her mother's ghost. That was the moment Aurora stopped being afraid, stopped feeling vulnerable, stopped carrying even a shred of doubt. Her mother's memory didn't haunt her. It empowered her. And these men, these pathetic, cruel men who thought violence made them strong, were about to learn what true strength looked like. She looked at Minjun, saw her own determination reflected in his eyes, and nodded once. Together. They entered the war room like avenging angels. Aurora went low. Minjun went high. Their movements synchronized from hours of training together, from learning each other's rhythms, from becoming extensions of each other's will. The element of surprise was total. Dae-hyun's first guard died before he could raise his weapon. Aurora's blade found his throat with surgical precision. She rolled, came up firing, dropped 2 more before they could react. Minjun's pistol barked 3 times in rapid succession. 3 shots, 3 bodies falling. But Dae-hyun had prepared for this. His remaining forces, at least 20 men, poured in from adjacent rooms. The war room exploded into violence. Aurora moved through the chaos like water through stone, fluid, inevitable, unstoppable. A guard swung at her with a rifle butt. She ducked under, drove her knife into his kidney, took his weapon as he fell. She fired without aiming, trusting instinct honed by years of anticipating violence. 2 shots, 2 kills. Minjun fought beside her, his movements economical and lethal. They'd backed up to cover each other's blind spots, creating a defensive perimeter nothing could penetrate. When Aurora's magazine ran dry, Min-jun provided covering fire while she reloaded. When he took a grazing hit to his shoulder, she stepped in front of him, dropped 3 shooters in rapid succession, gave him time to recover. They were partners, equals, one entity with 2 bodies. Kwon-soo watched from behind a barricade, his face twisted with impotent rage. Kill them! Kill them both! But his men were falling. Min-jun's training and Aurora's survival instincts proved superior to hired thugs, motivated only by money. One by one, Dae-hyun's forces were eliminated. One by one, the room grew quieter, until only 5 people remained standing. Min-jun and Aurora on one side, Dae-hyun, Kwon-soo, and the mysterious third man on the other. The third man wore an expensive suit and carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to power. Aurora didn't recognize him. "Impressive," Dae-hyun said, actually smiling despite the carnage. "You've become quite the duo. Almost makes me regret not recruiting her myself." "Who's your friend?" Min-jun demanded, his pistol trained unwaveringly on the suited man. The man smiled, revealing perfect teeth. "I'm disappointed you don't recognize me, Min-jun. We've done business before. My name is Park Jae-sung. I'm the prosecutor who put Dae-hyun in prison 5 years ago, and I'm the prosecutor who released him 3 days ago." Aurora's mind raced. A prosecutor. Government corruption. This went deeper than personal revenge. "I've been cleaning up Seoul's criminal underworld for years," Park continued, his voice carrying the conviction of someone who genuinely believed his own righteousness. "But you, Min-jun, you've always been too careful, too smart. I could never find evidence that would stick. So I made a deal with Dae-hyun. He gives me everything I need to destroy your empire. In exchange, I give him everything he needs to destroy you personally. Everyone wins." "Except us," Aurora said coldly. Park's eyes slid to her with something like pity. "Your collateral damage, unfortunate but necessary. Seoul will be better without Min-jun's influence cleaner. More orderly." "You mean you'll be free to install your own criminal empire?" Min-jun said. "Without competition. You're not cleaning up Seoul. You're conquering it." Park's smile widened. Semantics. Dae-hyun stepped forward, his pistol raised. "Enough talking. This ends now. 5 years I've waited, 5 years I've planned. Time to finish what you started, old friend." The standoff stretched. Aurora felt time slow to a crawl. Her finger rested on the trigger. Her breath steadied. Her mind cleared. 3 enemies. 2 guns between her and Min-jun. Someone was going to die in the next few seconds. The only question was who. Then Kwon-soo made his fatal mistake. He lunged for Aurora with a knife, thinking she was distracted, thinking she was vulnerable. But Aurora had been tracking him peripherally the entire time, waiting for exactly this move. She pivoted, caught his wrist, used his momentum against him. The knife redirected. Kwon-soo's eyes went wide as his own blade sank into his stomach. "That's for my mother," Aurora whispered. The room exploded into motion. Dae-hyun fired. Min-jun fired. Park dove for cover. Aurora released Kwon-soo's dying body and returned fire in one fluid motion. Bullets crossed the space in microseconds. Time dilated. Aurora saw everything with perfect clarity. Min-jun's shot caught Dae-hyun in the chest center mass. Fatal. Dae-hyun's shot went wide, his aim thrown off by the impact. Aurora's shot caught Park in the shoulder as he reached for his own weapon. He screamed, dropped, clutching the wound. And then it was over. Dae-hyun collapsed, blood spreading across the expensive carpet. His eyes found Min-jun's, and something like respect flickered there before the light faded. "You always were better." Kwon-soo lay dying, his hands pressed uselessly against the wound Aurora had given him. He looked up at her, his face twisted with incomprehension. "How? You were nothing. Worthless." Aurora crouched beside him, her voice cold and final. "I was never worthless. You just never saw me clearly. My mother's legacy lives through me. And you died knowing she won." Park was still alive, crying, bleeding, his carefully constructed world collapsing around him. Min-jun approached, his pistol aimed between the prosecutor's eyes. You wanted to clean up Seoul? Consider this your final service. Wait! Aurora's hand covered Min-jun's weapon, gently pushing it down. Not like this, not execution. Let him stand trial. Let the truth come out. Let the people of Seoul see exactly how corrupt their system was. His public humiliation will hurt more than a bullet ever could, and it'll expose everyone he worked with. We'll burn down his entire network. Min-jun studied her for a long moment, then slowly lowered his weapon. You're right. Some fates are worse than death. They called Jin-woo, who'd successfully disarmed the factory explosives and rescued all hostages. Within an hour, the penthouse was flooded with Min-jun's forces, with police Min-jun controlled through legitimate channels. With journalists Min-jun had strategically cultivated for years, Park's confession was recorded, documented, broadcast. The corruption scandal that followed consumed Seoul for months. But that night, as dawn broke over the city, Aurora and Min-jun stood alone on the penthouse balcony, watching the sun rise over a Seoul that was finally, truly theirs. It's over, Min-jun said, though his voice carried a question. No. Aurora leaned into him, her body fitting perfectly against his. It's just beginning. We have a wedding to plan, a shelter to build, a life to live. The war is over. Now comes the part where we learn to be happy. Min-jun turned her to face him, his hands framing her face with infinite tenderness. I never thought I'd have this. Never thought I'd feel this. You didn't just save me from my enemies, Aurora. You saved me from myself. Then save me right back, she whispered, every day for the rest of our lives. Save me from forgetting that I'm loved. Save me from forgetting that I matter. Save me from ever feeling invisible again. Always, he promised, for the rest of our lives and whatever comes after. They married 3 weeks later in a private ceremony, overlooking the Han River. Aurora wore white, not for purity but for new beginnings. Min-jun wore black, not for intimidation, but for the darkness he'd survived to find her. Their vows were simple, honest, and devastating in their sincerity. I promise to fight beside you, Aurora said, tears streaming down her face. To never let you face your demons alone, to be your partner, your equal, your home. I promise to see you, Min-jun replied, his voice cracking with emotion. Always, in every version of yourself, in every moment, in every breath. You will never be invisible to me again. When they kissed, Seoul's most dangerous criminal and the girl nobody wanted became something transcendent. They became hope. They became proof that broken people could heal each other. They became a love story that would be whispered about for generations. The shelter opened 6 months later, a sprawling complex that offered refuge to girls escaping abuse, women fleeing violence, anyone who needed sanctuary from the darkness. Aurora personally oversaw every detail. Her mother's letters framed in the entrance hall, a permanent reminder of the woman whose love transcended death. Min-jun scaled back his criminal operations, transitioning to legitimate businesses, using his power to protect rather than dominate. He never became soft, never lost his edge, but he channeled that lethal efficiency toward building instead of destroying. They had enemies still. There would always be enemies, but they faced them together, as partners, as equals, as one unbreakable force. And on quiet nights, when the city slept and the stars watched, Aurora would stand on their balcony and remember the girl who danced in a mask, who thought she was worthless, who believed she'd never escape. She'd thank that girl for surviving, for fighting, for refusing to disappear, because that girl's courage had led her here, to love, to purpose, to freedom. The story of the masked lady and the mafia king had ended, but the legend of their love was just beginning. Years later, when people asked Aurora how she survived, how she escaped, how she found happiness after so much pain. Her answer was always the same. I stopped waiting to be saved, I saved myself. And then, I found someone worth fighting beside. And when they asked Minjun how he conquered Seoul's underworld, how he built an empire, how he found redemption after decades of violence, his answer never wavered. I met someone who saw past my mask, someone who made me want to be better, someone who taught me that true power isn't about domination, it's about protection, it's about love. Their children grew up hearing stories of their parents' past, edited for appropriate ages, but never sanitized completely. They learned that darkness exists, that cruelty is real, but also that light persists, that love conquers, that broken people can build beautiful things if they refuse to give up. The shelter expanded, became a network of safe houses across Korea, then Asia, then the world. Aurora's mother's legacy touched millions of lives, each rescue a testament to one woman's love surviving beyond death. Minjun's empire transformed from criminal operation to legitimate dynasty. His children inherited wealth built on blood, but they used it to wash away the stains, to create opportunities, to protect the vulnerable. And every year, on the anniversary of the night they destroyed their enemies together, Aurora and Minjun returned to the penthouse balcony where they'd first stood as partners. They'd pour 2 glasses of wine, toast to survival, and remember. Remember the girl who refused to disappear. Remember the king who learned to love. Remember the night they proved that broken people don't have to stay broken. Remember that some love stories begin in darkness but end in light. Remember that fighting for each other is the most powerful force in the universe. And as Seoul's lights glittered below them like fallen stars, Aurora would lean into Minjun's embrace and whisper the same words she'd spoken that first night. "Thank you for staying." And Minjun would kiss her forehead and whisper back, "Always, little dove. Always." Thank you for watching this incredible journey. Aurora and Minjun's story has touched thousands of hearts. If their love story moved you, if their fight inspired you, if their victory made you believe in second chances, like this video right now. Subscribe to this channel because more epic stories are coming. Stories that will break you and rebuild you. Stories that will make you believe in love, in courage, in redemption. Hit that notification bell. Share this with someone who needs to remember they're not worthless. Share it with someone fighting their own battles. Share it with someone who needs hope. Because that's what stories do. They remind us we're not alone. They show us that survival is possible. They prove that happy endings exist for those brave enough to fight for them. Aurora and Minjun fought. They survived. They won. And so can you see you in the next story. Stay strong. Stay brave. Stay loved.